G'day Internet, welcome to Red Hot Go. My name's Dan and today we've got to get this room ready for painting. First things first though, before we even start thinking about painting, we need to pull all the photos down. We're going to pull off these curtains because we don't like them. So I'm going to pull the curtain rod down, I'm going to pull the blinds out, and I'm also going to pull down all these light fittings. But we'll talk about that when we get there. And then we're going to tape everything ready for first coat. Let's get started. Righto, now all the pictures are down, I'm gonna pull down the curtains. So you'll see on most curtains like this, there'll be a screw that holds the rod in place. And then it looks like these are just hooked on to a screw on the wall like that, but they're all different. So let's pull them down.
So you can see here I unscrewed the rods from the holders, unscrewed the knob from the end of the rod, and then slid the curtains off the end. With the blinds, there's two spring-loaded clips on each side. Just squeeze them together and rotate the blind outwards.
Righto, so that's the blinds done. Next, I'm gonna take these off. Now there's 8 plus these 2 chandeliers. I suggest getting an electrician to do it. I'm not an electrician, but I know what needs to happen. Safety first, make sure you turn the power off at the mains and don't connect wires together. Also, make sure everything's taped with electrical tape. That's why they call it electrical tape. Let's go and turn the power off.
These lights were mounted onto a bracket which had been screwed into the wall, so I just had to unscrew the bolts, disconnect the wires, and then remove the bracket from the wall.
Just like that. Also, if you want these lights, I've got 8 of them and 2 of the chandeliers, so I'm going to put a link in the description. So if you want them, go and grab them. There's nothing wrong with them. Bulbs work, everything's fine, so go and grab them.
Then I repeated the process another 7 times.
Okay, so all those ones are off the walls now, and I've gone back and triple checked to make sure I've got no live wires hanging out. They've all been capped off with these. Don't know what they're called, but just triple check, quadruple check, make sure there's no exposed wires before you turn back on. But I've still got these ones to take out now, so that'll be fun. Moving on.
They were actually easier than I expected. Same setup as the wall lights, just a bit heavier, not light like the name suggests.
So they're all off now. Couple other things I want to do. Tape where the aircon is. Just tape around this. I had a look. Seems to be spring loaded from the other side. I don't know how it's gone in there. And I'm also going to take this off as well, which is the security thing. So I'll unplug that and take that off as well. And then we can tape. Cool. Moving on.
I used frog tape, but there's plenty of different types. Make sure if you're painting over anything that's not bare timber that's going to be covered with carpet or something later that you put down some drop sheets. Then it's time to stir up the paint and get brushing. I also found it easier to put the paint into a small container rather than lugging around a 4-litre paint can. When painting anything, it's better to start at the top and work down. So here I'm painting the architraves first, and then cutting into the roof and around the taped areas. Then I grabbed a roller and finished off the first coat on the roof.
Okay guys, so just remember if you need to fill any holes, I have a video for that up here. But before you paint, just make sure you put a coat of primer over it so the paint will stick to the wall. Alright, now I'm going to sand the window frames because they're like a smooth gloss, and if I don't then the paint's just going to fall straight off them basically. And then I'm going to put some tape around them. Let's do it.
When taping the windows, you really want to be as accurate as possible. The longer you spend here, the less heartache you'll have when it comes to removing the tape. Also, don't forget to tape any outlets that you don't want to get paint onto. Remember that the tape is supposed to be used as a guide, not a slap it on and worry about it later alternative. If you paint over the tape too thick, it may bleed underneath, but it will also end up being bonded with the window paint, and when you remove the tape, it will peel the fresh paint right off. I would think, someone told me. Then we started on the walls. I started with the darker paint first, but I don't think it really matters. I also managed to get my wife involved, which was a bonus. So while I cut into the dark wall, she put a second coat onto the windows, then she rolled the large wall while I brushed the smaller one. We ended up doing 2 coats on the roof and the walls and a third coat on the window frames. If you're going from a dark wall to a light wall, however, I suggest 3 or 4 coats just to cover up the darkness. And once the paint is dry and you touched up all the dodgy areas, it's time to remove the tape and tidy up. The plastic sheet said heavy duty non-tear, so I'm hoping to get at least a second use out of them, although one of them tore as I was opening it and the cat seemed to think they were a scratching post. Lastly, give the room a good sweep to get rid of any sanding dust.
And that's how you paint a room. On to the next one.
If you've got any tips, let me know in the comments. Otherwise, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Remember to give all your projects a red hot go, and I'll see you on the next one.